get clear on what your gifts and talents are, then go follow that path. Do not follow paths that your gifts and talents are not in. That is going into a literally a brick wall that you're not going to get any movement on. And then you're going to think that you're not good at life when honestly, you're just going down an avenue that you're not gifted in.
Yes, that's very powerful. Very
Yes,
powerful.
it's an important for people to understand that because I think it was Einstein that said, do not judge a fish by how it climbs a tree. Judge it by how it swims.
DeMar DeRozan, Kelly Oubre Jr. opening up about their anxieties, their depression, their mental health challenges. Joined now by Suns life coach Darlene Santor. And Darlene, you and the Suns have been very proactive in this kind of an issue. Talk about kind of the daily activities that you have with this Suns team and the players.
Hey guys, welcome to Millionaire Brand Creation. I am super excited to have my friend on here, Darlene Santor, better known as Coach Dar. You probably know her from Instagram and a myriad of different other podcasts. She wrote an amazing book in 2023, published by McGraw-Hill, called The Art of Bouncing Back: Find Your Flow to Thrive at Work and Life.
Yeah.
And also she's worked with the Suns, she's worked with the NBA team, she's worked with a bunch of professional athletes, Fortune 100 companies. So I'm super excited to introduce you to Coach Dar. How are you?
Hey, so good to see you today.
So great to see you too. Thank you so much for coming on. And if you could start us back in your teenage years and then kind of take us to that tumultuous point in your life where you were having your ailments and your seizures and things of that nature.
Sure. Why I wrote Bouncing Back. I've had to bounce back from a few things. But going back to childhood, I grew up in Connecticut with, the typical Italian family. If you've watched The Sopranos, then you will know a little bit about my family. Good, better, and different. That's my family, which I wouldn't trade for anything because growing up in the East Coast, Connecticut, New York, our family didn't have a lot. But what they did, Michael, is they had community, and we had Sundays, we would watch football. We'd go to church, everyone would come over for football. We would start our meals at 12 o'clock and no one left till 10 p.m. And then people would just come over all day, friends, family, neighbors, and they just rotate through. And you sat, you enjoyed being together, but conversation, like that was what I remember so much of my childhood was connection and conversation and just coming together. And I feel like a tip right off the bat is to have true fulfillment is to find community and connection, because there's things that will give you success, but they will not give you fulfillment. And if you want fulfillment in life, it's going to have to be obviously purpose-driven life, but also community and connection. There's so much research on that, so trust me on it. But grow up in this awesome family, and I saw my mom struggle early on. She had heart disease. And so, but I share this part of the story because my mom, from the age of 40 till she passed a few years ago, she would go through so many surgeries, but she'd get back up, and she was a barber, and she'd go back and she said, God still wants me here, then I still have a purpose. And she'd go to that barber shop like it was her purpose every day. And I just saw resilience. I saw someone who bounced back no matter what. Part of growing up, seeing my mom struggle so much, it made me want to make for a better life for my family early on. So I didn't know how that was going to happen. I just knew I was flying the coop to say, what do I need to do to make for a better life for my family? And I went to school to be an occupational therapist. I became an occupational therapist, which I help people with traumatic brain injury. So stroke, brain injury. And the irony is my grandfather had a stroke when he was 16. And when I saw the therapist work with him, I said, oh, that's it. That's what I want to do. I don't know why it came to me so early, but I just knew I wanted to care for people. And then I quickly specialized in neuro, so the brain and human behavior, and that became my specialty, which then my first stroke happened when I was 25. I was married at the time to my college sweetheart. I went to the chiropractor because I hurt my back at work. And when I went to the chiropractor, they manipulated my neck and they ripped the artery to my brain.
Oh, geez.
And I didn't know I was bleeding at the time. And I didn't find out till later. And it left me with a blood clot. And I was told by the doctor that I could die any day. And this is an important part because you'll go through seasons in your life where you feel like hope has been taken away from you. And at that moment, I was the therapist at the hospital that gave my patients who had literally just had a stroke or a brain injury from a car accident, their life was flipped upside down. And I was the person to come in to give them hope. And I was the hope dealer. I helped them cognitively and physically get back to a new life and a new normal. And then I go through this, and all I heard the doctor say to me was, don't do this. Everything was no. Like, you can't have kids because if you get pregnant, it'll blow the clot and you'll die. You can't keep running because if you run, it'll blow the clot. Like, everything was no, no, no. And I just looked at him and I'm like, you literally have taken hope away from my life. That's awful. So I flipped a switch and I was like, well, screw it. I mean, if I could die any day, then I'm going to go help make the world better. And I went back to school for business. And then at 28, I was helping run president of a healthcare company and ran multiple companies at that point. And then in 2008, when the recession hit, again, another point where there was a loss of hope in our world. And it felt more like a calling at that point. I left everything that I knew. I mean, lucrative career, a career that I had known, to start my own practice. And what my practice is today is not what I set out. I just set out and said, I got to go talk to people on mindset. I have to help them. Just because you lost your finances or your house or your job based on where we are right now does not mean your gifts or talents have been taken away. We just need to restructure how you're thinking. And I said, I help people have their brain removed. You don't think I could help you with all your mental faculties? Like, it just was obvious for me, but you have to remember, this is 2008 where people are not talking about mindset then like they are now. Now you hear about it all the time. So my dad says, is this like the stroke talking that you're just going to go start your own practice in a recession? And I said, no, Dad, I literally am convicted. Like, I burned the ships and I went, Michael, and I was like set out to go do this. I was speaking for free. I didn't even care. But what happened over time is because I literally used my gifts and talents and authentically what I believed in to go teach people something, it just authentically brought the right people. So it started with wives bringing their husbands to me going, wow, he's got more in him. He could be the next CEO or, the next this, but he needs to get out of his own head and you have to help him with that. And that's how it started. And then it was an athlete that would say, I know there's more in me, but I can't take it up another gear. Or, hey, I could play a game, but I get anxiety everywhere else and I don't even want to be around people. So slowly people just started coming to me because that's what I taught on, and I could help people unlock their potential. I could help people help their mental game go to the next level. And I'm trained as a therapist in neuroscience. And leadership and business. So I just started putting business, leadership, and neuroscience together to create this practice, which has led me now to today coaching pro athletes in all the leagues around the world and CEOs. But it's peak performers who want to go to that next level or keep their edge and keep going. And then I speak around the world on resiliency because I'll close with this part of the story, but I ended up having 3 strokes, not just one. And the 3rd stroke was 4 years ago. And that was the worst one. It took away my speech and fine motor and balance. And I really was like, I think I'm just going to call it, meaning like, I got to start playing small again. Maybe this is all too much. And my sister's like, are you out of your head? You'll go to the beach, you'll like be in this little shack, and then all of a sudden you'll go, hey, I think we could help this person with their business and do this. And she's like, you can't even help yourself. You'll start picking up clients just by being like, hey, I can help you with this. And she's like, you weren't meant to play small, so get back up. And it was the best advice.
Yeah, there was a line that I heard you speak, I think on another podcast, that really resonated with me with your flatline concept of the heartbeat. Yeah. Can you describe that a little bit?
So when I was last in the hospital, my mother had just had a stroke. I didn't want to call anyone. And I'm sitting in the ER by myself, and I didn't know what to do, but I also didn't know if I was going to live. Like, I truly didn't know what was going to happen. And I just kept watching the heart monitor and going, oh my gosh, I don't want that to flatline. Like, I want to see the up and down of that heartbeat, like super strong. I don't want it to get weak. And I definitely don't want to see it flatline because then I'm out. And as I'm sitting there having a stroke, I'm like, if I live through this, I'm totally going to coach on this, because what do we all want in life? We want actually to coast, which is flatlining. Oh, if my marriage could just be easy, if my kid's life could just be easy, if my career, well, easy does not get you growth. Easy does not help you feel the fullness of life. You need the ups to know what it feels like to be at the top of the mountain, and you need the valleys to build the strength. Without the valley, there is no tick back up. There just isn't. Your muscles everywhere, mental, physical, spiritual, you have to work those by putting stress on it to get stronger. So for everyone listening, don't ask to coast because you will never get the fullness of life, and your everything in that will die eventually. You want to have the fullness, so embrace it for what it is.
Yeah, I love this. And I think this is a good segue into my next question for you. So, having dealt with peak performers and athletes and CEOs, what are some tips and some tricks that you can relay to the audience that maybe they can implement in their life in a time of flatline?
Yeah. So, you're in this moment where you're stuck and you're sad, you're depressed, you're stuck, you're anxious. You don't know what's going to happen next. I get it. And I just want to say it sucks. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I cannot stand that feeling, and I know you don't either, but this is what you have to do. Once you accept it, okay, what is the reality of my situation? The realness of it. What is it? What are we dealing with? Like, whether it's in the relationship, your finances, work, where are we? Get clear acuity of this situation, which then helps you embrace the suck of it. So in the first chapter of my book, The Art of Bouncing Back, in order to bounce back, the first chapter is let's embrace it. Because if you don't embrace it, we can't even move forward because you're just going to stuff it, which means we're going to have problems later on. But when you embrace it, you create clarity because you go, okay, if this is the realness of the situation, now I have to go to, let's take a situation. Someone just lost a big part of their company or their job, and financially you're struggling and you're not sure if you're even going to stay in this career. So what I want you to do is stop for a second and go take inventory. What are you still good at? What are still your gifts and your talents? And literally write them down and go seek from friends and people around you and say, what do you believe I'm good at? Like, what do I convey? And you take inventory along with their inventory. And when you look at that, it's going to give you a picture of your gifts and talents. And then you go, okay, here's this. Where does it meet the world's needs? And I mean that. Like, where could you bring your gifts and talents? Is it still in this industry? Great. How could you reinvent it? What other things do you need to do? Who do you need to tell? That's the second part of this, which is once you identify it, you need to speak it to people. Hey, I'm in this position. These are my gifts and talents. Do you know of anyone who could benefit from this? You have to let people know, or you might meet someone and say, let's curate a business together. And then, life continues, but you have to get clarity of what that is. Because if you don't get clarity, I just had a call this morning. Someone was just going to take something because it was the next best thing, paid them really well, but they're not passionate at all. And I said, why the hell would you leave something to go to something that you know is going to make you miserable? I go, stop, do inventory, and then let's find out where the needs are, where you could fill that. Because this expression in life of you could do anything in life is false. It's a lie. I'm 5'2". I cannot go be a WNBA player. It's never happening. So that's a pipe dream. And someone should not be like, Dar, you go do and be who you want. Bull sugar. Like, no, that's not the world. Or I helped run a record label. I loved being around it, and I have a producing mindset. Like, I'm a creative, but I can't sing. So for someone to say, why don't you go try to get a record deal? That's ridiculous and a waste of time. But where do my gifts and talents align? Helping create for people to reach their full potential. So I could stay in that lane all day, and there's industries all over the world I could show up in. Same for the people listening right now. Get clear on what your gifts and talents are. Then go follow that path. Do not follow paths that your gifts and talents are not in. That is going into literally a brick wall that you're not going to get any movement on. And then you're going to think that you're not good at life when honestly, you're just going down an avenue that you're not gifted in.
Yes, that's very powerful.
Yes.
Very powerful.
It's important for people to understand that, because I think it was Einstein that said, do not judge a fish by how it climbs a tree. Judge it by how it swims. And we put ourselves in that situation, or as leaders, we put people in roles that's not even their gift and talented. And then you're like, they're not good on our team. No, you put them in the wrong position, and now they're not able to flow. So as long as you as a leader or you as a person get into the lanes that you're gifted at, you will be in flow state and you will produce. It will happen. These valleys are here to help us refine us. And I told you they suck. I hate them. I mean, I cannot stand it. I've been through so many damn valleys but guess what happens? The more valleys you go through, it's like a muscle. When you lift and it shreds the muscle, now the muscle just got bigger. So now you keep building on top of that. Well, that's the same thing with challenges in our life. You start to shred and build mental muscle. So now when another low hits, you don't go as low. Now you've just built another layer. So you're back to the peak faster. That's what this whole process that I help people with is bouncing back faster, because you're not going to go as low. And every player will say, Dar, I bounce back way faster after we work together because I taught them how to they don't have to go as low anymore. They built the mental capital so they could pull from that bank to get back to the peak.
Yeah, I have another question for you, Dar. So who is your biggest mentor? What did they teach you? And how did it change the trajectory of your life?
An Italian from Connecticut named Vinny. No
Really?
joke. Yes. My mom is probably my greatest hero, but a mentor for sure is Vinny, in the sense that when I went to go start my practice, he called me out and said, you could be a better leader. I want you to think about every word you say going forward. And he said, we live in a world where people just fib. They don't even realize it. And back then, you might still answer calls and say, tell them that I'm not here. You'd be in an office space. You'd be like, tell them I'm not here. Well, you are here. You're just not available. And so he's like, every time you say something that doesn't align, you put cracks in your foundation and eventually the house will fall.
Wow,
I want
so
you to
true.
go, yeah. And he's like, you are going to go embark on this journey to help leaders be better leaders. I need you to step it up. So he called me up. And that's what this whole theme came, raise the bar with Coach Dar. After that, I didn't create it. People created it. But I started calling people out and calling people up, including myself, saying like, we need more people where their front stage meets their backstage. I cannot take a speaker, Instagram. Everyone is like, oh, I'm an expert on this. And then they live totally different. It is hurting mental health of this world and relationships. So we're not going to be perfect. I'm not saying that I and we all don't trip up, but we have to really look at our integrity as people. Do our words match our actions? And we should just start there, like emotional intelligence, and start with having our words match our actions. Be authentically who you are, but please do not present one way and you're completely another way. That's just not even honoring to yourself. But Vinny started having me really identify, like, what does a great leader look like? And then held me accountable to it. And then every time I speak now, I am like fully convicted by him and God of what I say, I better darn do. And I love it, because when you're held accountable to something, you show up better. And that is a way better fulfilling life than lying to yourself, because every time you break small commitments to yourself or someone, you weaken the strength of your foundation of the house. So if you want to stand strong, be strong in what you do and say, and honor your commitments. Even as simple as tomorrow you said you're going to wake up, go do it. Tomorrow you said you're going to call this person back, go do it. They may not care if you don't call them back, but what I'm trying to do is help build mental resiliency and integrity in you so that you become the version that other people wish they had in their life.
That's so true. One of my favorite quotes is, the only difference between a winner and a loser is a winner actually goes through with the promises they make to themselves.
Exactly.
And a loser makes excuses. I mean, it's simple as that. If you made a promise to yourself, you figure out a way to keep that promise, whether it was when you were 5, 10, 15, 20, or 50.
Yeah. And you know what, for everyone listening, start now. If you haven't been working on this, start now. We all have a chance to be a better version, and it starts today.
What are some of the things that you've seen in a lot of your high achievers of implementation that people could add to their lives? Because I think the difference between good, great, and exceptional is rather somewhat close. So how can someone go from great to exceptional? Like, what are like 1 or 2 or 3 steps they can implement in their life after watching this right now?
Number 1, be consistent.
I love that.
1,000% be consistent. You will never get to be exceptional. You will never even get to great, let alone exceptional, if you're not consistent. So when you start to be consistent and you stay consistent, you'll beat out your competition, because, you know, you might be on a mile run and you have 4 laps and you're on the second lap where people are giving up. You stay going. You will outpace everyone by being consistent. And it's not even going to be that hard. The other thing is, you have to stay in a growth mindset. Exceptional people are curious people who want to be better. They do not think they are the smartest in the room. They call coaches to say, how do I become the best of the best? Help me identify, do I have blind spots? Is there something I need to get better on? Help watch my patterns so that I can be better. So you have to That is someone who's highly emotional intelligent, willing to be vulnerable and exposed to say, help me be even better. Because most people go from good to great and they're like, I'm good. I see this in the pros all the time. They get there and they're like, I'm good. I'm going to collect the check. I'm going to work hard. I mean, I'm good though, right? And I might even be great, but then you know the people. I know them as soon as I get on the phone. Our conversation, I don't even want to hang up and they don't want to hang up because we to the world seem so out of our mind that
Right.
we're like the outliers, that it seems normal to us, but someone listening would be like, a phone call I had today too. We're curating something that's going to be so epic that I'm like, anyone listening would be like, you guys are out of your head. I'm hello. You know what makes the world's great is someone who thought it was possible and went after it. They believe.
Yes.
So they're consistent, they have a growth mindset, and they have an unwavering belief in themselves. And
Love that.
I will add, because it's important to me, but it's worked for me, is I have God confidence. I know that if I'm brought to a situation and I will be seen through, like I could be in the White House to a boardroom to a locker room. If I've been called into it and I stay in my lane of what I'm gifted in, I could show up all day in it. I have total belief in that.
It's so true, actually. I mean, really, it starts with yourself, right? If you don't have the utmost belief in your own courage and your own ability, no one else is going to believe it either.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say it, you know this too. When someone meets you for the first time, they take you for face value. If you're
Yeah.
confident, they assume you're confident. If
Yeah.
you're elegant, they assume you're elegant. If you have a great friend dynamic and you're outgoing, they assume that's who you are. So
Yeah.
it's really the construct of you must become what it is you wish to attract. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
As soon as I start with a player, I'll say, do you think you could win the Stanley Cup? If they go, I mean, I think so, I'll be like, that we're not getting anywhere with that.
No,
We're not.
that's
Do
not
you,
going to happen.
you know, I mean, some of the best players that I've coached, I'll say to them, do you think you're the best and you can help this team? Absolutely, 1,000%, because they know what they're going to bring to the table every day. Is it going to be a championship team? They'll say, you know what? Our goal every year is the NBA finals. So it's the finals all the way. That's our goal. We're going to do our best to get there. Not, I don't know, we might get there. I mean, we're going to try. When I see that, I think, first of all, your belief system isn't going to allow it because you could only achieve what you believe. That's truly it. Your brain doesn't know the difference from reality to fiction, meaning if you tell it this is the scenario, it will happen. So much so, let me give you an example of this. There was a coach for UConn years ago. I think it was Kevin Ali. It was his first year taking over from Jim Calhoun, which is a world-renowned coach. So what he does is he takes the players to where the Final Four is going to be played, the championship game. He takes them there in July to let them know that come March, this is where they're going to win. When they get into that arena and he flies them in, he plays the sound of the crowd going crazy. And when that happens, he says, this is the feeling that you're going to feel when we win the championship. Guess what they did? They won the championship that year. Yeah.
It's emotional conditioning. It's really amazing. And I have to give you my book, actually, and I'd like a copy of yours. We'll do a book swap.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the last quote of my book, I want you to see how this resonates with you, is this: you're never the best version of yourself you want to be. Rather, you are the lowest version of yourself you're willing to accept. What will you accept in your life? How does that play off into what you teach to your clients?
Well, what I hear you saying is like you're the lowest version, which allows you to get to the next version. Like you could only your score only goes up from here. So right, we're meeting you where you are, but I hear it as now you're only could get better from here though. This is I hear it, and I don't know if I'm hearing it the way you wrote it, but how I hear it is this is where your equity only goes up. Okay. But it's always like this is the people that get me now, my price goes up next year. Like it's only going up. So you're meeting me at this version, which is the lowest version of right now, which is the highest from 10 years ago, but it's not going to be in a year from now. So every year you become a better version.
You only meet your baseline expectation, right? It's like dating. We had this conversation last time we met. If you have a extremely high expectation in yourself, you have a very high extreme expectation in your partner, as you should. And so when you meet a person that even comes close to that, they have reached a baseline expectation, and the only way to go from there is up. But if someone doesn't even meet the baseline priorities of someone to achieve or become that person,
Yes,
they have a lot more work to do within themselves.
definitely. And don't even enter into it.
No, No, no,
You
no,
know,
no.
a great comment was, do not fall in love with potential, fall in love with patterns. Their patterns are
Oh, I
predicting.
love that. I love that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
honestly, that's what I do within coaching is I watch patterns of people. I'm hopeful for where they'll go, but their patterns are telling me where they'll go. I mean, life insurance plans base everything on patterns to predict life expectancy.
Wow.
The same thing in coaching, the same thing in leadership, and the same thing in dating. Your patterns predict where you're going to go. So if the person's patterns are not aligning with where you want to go, end it. Don't even enter into it.
So true. So true. And you have to learn how to say no, right? And then it's almost, you have to have the resilience within yourself to know you're going to have 1,000 to 10,000 to a million no's before you get that one yes. And that one yes in your life can change the entire trajectory of your life.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I just happened to see an artist play this weekend and Riley Green, and he said 2 years ago, I was building houses in construction and I'm selling out crowds right now, 2 years later, because an
Wow.
opportunity came that changed his whole life.
One person, one opportunity. Boom.
It does. Eminem seize it or let it slip away.
I love that. So before we end, are there any books that you recommend for our viewership? Is there
Yes.
anything that you love that you're like, wow,
Yeah.
this is really powerful, besides your own, of course?
Well, for sure, get the art of bouncing back. I mean it
Yes.
wholeheartedly. It will help people tremendously. There's not enough books teaching you resilience on and stepping up. The other one is Atomic Habits, hands down, one of my favorite books. I have multiple copies, and then multiple copies I have are Rethinking Success by Doug Holliday. So good. It just is a great way for you to rethink success because what we think, what actually happens, like I started, does not necessarily bring fulfillment. So rethink how you see
Mm,
success.
I love that. I love that. Is there a quote or multiple quotes that resonate with you that help change the trajectory of your life or your clients' lives?
A quote I just heard today, because I can't think of like one that changed my life. And I just did a video on it, which was people, it's easy to touch the starting line, but most don't touch the finish line.
Mm,
And so many people, we all show up to the starting line. It's like, oh, yeah, we're in. We're in on the relationship. We're in on the business. We're in on this journey, but they're not willing to stick it out to see it through to the finish line, which is why they feel unfulfilled. It takes, again,
wow.
back to consistency and discipline, growth mindset to stay in the fight of this, to see your full potential.
Love that. And if you had to tell a 16-year-old girl or guy, if you
Mhm.
could give them one piece of wisdom that you've learned throughout your life of multiple highs and multiple lows and amazing rooms that you've been in and being a published author and doing all these amazing things, what piece of advice would you leave them with?
You are going to hit adversity. It's not if, it's when. But here's the thing, you'll make it through. And for every wave that comes, you just learn to become a better surfer. So don't fight it, embrace it so that you could surf these waves of life better. And then go be brave and courageous, take more risks, and don't be afraid to fail because it's in those failures and it's in taking that risk that you actually build your strength. And then lastly, go have fun. We need people to go play more. We're getting so serious. Everything has got to be so perfect. No, it doesn't. Like, go on that trip. Be silly. Who cares what you look like? Like, go have more fun in this world. We have life right now. I've almost lost my life 3 times. Don't take it so serious that you don't enjoy life.
And last but not least, if you had to summarize our conversation that we just had, I mean, you have many, many nuggets. People are going to rewind, rewatch this a lot, I can tell you. What would you summarize our conversation to be the last 30 seconds or to a minute or so?
There's a lot of good people in the world, but I'm looking for people to be great. And I think this whole conversation is one, we're going to hit adversity, but to go from good to great to exceptional, get back up, get back in the arena, be consistent, keep honing your gifts and skills, align with what you're talented in so you could live authentically you, fight the good fight, and then go have fun doing it.
I love that. Ooh, give me chills, Dar. I like this. How can they follow you? How can they get to know you? How can they buy your book? What's the best way the audience can serve you?
Go to Instagram at the Coach Dar. And that's where I give a lot of information. But my website, Coach Dar, has everything on it. So you could find all my social handles. You could connect with me there. And that's where my book is. And also this retreat I'm putting on in the summer, you could apply there.
Love this. Like if you ever watched The Great Gatsby or read F.
Oh,
Scott
yeah.
Fitzgerald book, right? You know, Leo in the movie goes, my life, old sport, needs to be like this. It needs to be going up, right? And it's never a direct linear line. And a lot of people can't cope with the downs, but it's through those downs that we can go to higher highs down the line. Can you leave us with something in regards to that?
You're just going to have to go through the journey, and it's never a straight trajectory up. It's just not. I'm going to go back to, you have to go through the ups and downs of life and go through this journey to experience the fullness of it.
Love it. Well, I just want to thank you again for taking the time. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I'm sure we will talk soon.
We will. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.